All right, welcome once again, y'all, to our weekly kvetching session that we call In Progress here at Progress, Texas. Progress, Texas podcasting director Chris Mosier here, along with executive director Kathleen Thompson.
Hey, y'all.
And advocacy manager Reagan Stone.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody.
And digital associate Haley Smith.
Hey, y'all.
I just think of you guys as my friends and my pals, not by all these titles. And so that's why I have a hard time.
Kathleen, Reagan, and Haley.
I have a hard time pulling them out of my skull. So we do have lots to talk about. We here at Progress Texas, our reality is we have been drinking through a fire hose for weeks and weeks with the session going on. We still have to drink from a fire hose as the end game plays out here, and it feels to me as though, and this is going to sound really negative, and I don't want to start off negative. But it does feel as though we're down to the point in the session where all the complaining and all the lobbying and all the testifying and all the proselytizing and all the things we've done for weeks and weeks, the Republicans have patiently nodded and smiled as we did all of that. And now they're just basically doing whatever they want. That's maybe a little too far, isn't it?
I don't know if they're nodding and smiling, because after the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick press conference, I think we saw like freaking yelling and, child tantrum. Is that the word?
That is.
Yeah. I got like secondhand embarrassment watching him throw that like bag of food at somebody. And then the guy just like picked it up and like put it back on the table.
I think he took out a gummy too, right as he was doing that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, it doesn't matter. They're all going to be illegal anyway. It's like, is he supposed to be like charming people or convincing people here? Because it's not working.
That was my question. I'm like, why? Okay. Isn't this already off to the governor's desk? Why are we still lobbying? Why did he have the press conference to begin with?
Because he doesn't like the news coverage, and he doesn't like the veterans groups and the average Texans who say, my dad uses these products for chronic back pain. My friend is a veteran who uses these for PTSD after serving our country and being harmed for life. I mean, Jeremy Wallace asked in a video that I saw, I can sympathize with your wanting to, air quotes, protect kids. Of course, if that was true, we'd have different gun laws in Texas, and that's not the truth. And we'd have better school laws, but that's not the truth.
And we wouldn't have any beer either. There would be no beer to be found anywhere.
It'd be a dry state.
What about the adults who want to use this? They're grown-ups. They're legal. They can make their own decisions. And he yells back, like, what are you, crazy? I mean, Dan's ban, to me, is saying, like, I want to be everybody's mommy. And I want to tell you what you can do and what you can't do. And I thought that we were going to treat grown-ups with respect and tell them, yeah, we're gonna live our lives, and we're the party of freedom, and we're the party of you do you. And
right.
And what happened to that? I mean, Dan Patrick wants to be everybody's mommy and say you can have alcohol, you can have a lot of alcohol, you can have cigarettes, but you can't do something to help yourself or your family members at the end of the day, to take the edge off, or to help with pain, to help with anxiety.
Right.
It's shocking to me that the Republicans were supposed to be the small government group that so small you could drown it in a bathtub, right? That's what I grew up hearing. But it's now I'm your mommy, and I'm going to say what you can do and what you can't do, and I'm going to scold you at a press conference. It's ridiculous.
Really a book out of Trump's playbook of just like yelling and a big tantrum. Quote from Dan Patrick: "We don't want anybody buying anything off the shelf that could kill them or ruin their mental state for the rest of their lives." Is that reefer madness or what?
Yeah. This stuff will make you, Haley, watch out, because this stuff will make you instantly insane. One little gummy, you're insane forever.
50,000 years of modern humans, there has never been a if you have taken cannabis and only cannabis, there's never been a cannabis death in human history.
That is true. Mm-hmm. That is true. Let's reset just a little bit and say, we're not talking about recreational legalization across the state. We're not talking about, a dispensary on every corner. We're talking about just the basic, low level crap that we've already been doing Since the hemp thing went through. Texas is now in the minority of U.S. states that have not legalized or come to some degree of legalization with cannabis. We're way, way behind the curve here. And yeah, Kathleen's right. This is the party, by the way, that is cool, and we'll get to some more of this, that's cool with our state being completely flooded in firearms because we're so responsible, because we're so safe, and we're so careful, and we're so, responsible with what we're doing with deadly weapons. We can have guns everywhere, but having, freaking gummies, forget about it. It's too dangerous.
I want to go there, but real quick, a couple more comments on that THC ban, Dan's ban, that we're going to be calling it come September 1st, is first that SB3 bill. I just want to say, again, big props to Jeremy Wallace at the Houston Chronicle. You get a shout out this week. He said, quote, Texas has found a way to prohibit minors from legally buying alcohol and cigarettes without banning the products entirely.
Right.
So again, these products are like Deltas and THCAs and other things. They're not the recreational cannabis, as you said, Chris. But at the same time, I might give a little bit of say is that some of these products, we don't know everything about it. And so we do need to regulate them. The issue is that now kids that he thought he was going to be protecting are going to be able to walk around, the back of the school and be able to buy a product that they have no idea what they are. Not that kids need to get cannabis, but they can get cannabis or weed a lot easier than a 6-pack of beer because it's regulated. I think another place, just a quick rant on this, is that this is going to be a huge win for the cartels that Dan Patrick is evidently trying to support here. Whatever you might say on immigration, we have systematically taken away the profit margin for human trafficking from these cartels. And if you go west from Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, those states have taken away the profit from the cartels for cannabis.
Right.
But Texas is now handing back a blank check, billions of dollars potentially, to these cartels to make money off of innocent Texans and to continue their lethal and deadly types of activities just across the border and into Texas.
We're talking about putting so many Texans out of work. We're talking about, I think estimates were 50,000 jobs and generating $8 billion in tax revenue annually, according to the Trib. I mean, where does that money come from to make that up for our state budget? Where do those people go to for their jobs? They've created small businesses across the state at a time when the economy is always in a terrible state of chaos and flux, unless you're a multi-billionaire. And with tax cuts coming for folks like all of us and you, dear listener, where do these people go to support their families? It just doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make good business sense. And if we're supposed to be a state that wants businesses to come to Texas, we're putting folks out of business for what?
And Jeremy, I'm going to send this podcast to you. So we're going to take one right out of your book. This might be a new segment in progress. Is he always says in his daily emails, who's up and who's down. So who's up? Big thumbs up to Jeremy Wallace for protecting freedom of the press and questioning our elected officials. And the thumbs down goes to the Democrats that voted with Republicans on Dan's THC ban.
I want to weigh in real quick. We got to move on to other things, but real quick, something on what Kathleen said. This entire industry, this $8 billion, 50,000 employee industry, came into being because of the actions of Texas Republicans in prior sessions. The folks who are in charge, the folks who are ignoring the Democrats, the folks who would love to silence the Democrats, who take away the Democrats' ability to really have any meaningful, influence on legislation in the Capitol, in their great wisdom and in their full control, they made this possible in prior sessions. Now they are about facing on it, and there really is no solid explanation outside of, what's Dan Patrick get out of it, but here we are.
Haley, what's grinding your gears this week?
Well, gotta say, it's not really grinding my gears. It's kind of the opposite, actually. Elon Musk getting kicked out of the cool kids table officially this week has been, yes, thank you. Round of applause, everybody.
Yay. We're hearing stories of shouting matches, and what's lately, of course, there's a lot of confusion in Mr. Musk's own head about why people are so mean to him these days, and why they don't, why are they not thanking him for all the savings that he's come up with his Doge activities, which really have done, very little that I've heard of in terms of, actual, monetary savings. They've definitely upended a whole bunch of different, federal departments. I have a cousin who worked for USAID. That's no longer, he's off looking for another gig. And at the same time, I think what's been the late rub between Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump has been the fact that Mr. Musk has correctly pointed out that this new big, beautiful bastard bill that they're doing over there is going to add trillions and trillions of dollars to the national debt, which supposedly was what Doge was about reversing.
Right. Good that he's out, if he is, at the Trump administration, but I'm not going to say that we want him back here in Texas.
Hell no.
I mean, we've seen the news stories about him bothering his neighbors and being a terrible neighbor. No surprise.
If we're talking about, clearing up any confusion about why we don't like Elon Musk, I mean, let me count the ways. The first thing that springs to mind to me is the big Nazi salute that apparently wasn't a Nazi salute that came right out of. You want to talk about hubris. You want to talk about a bunch of people who thought that they, at that moment after Trump won the election, that they had taken over the world, that the game was over, that they had won, that they had taken the prize. And so now we can just goose step salutes on national world stages. The sheer audacity of actually doing something like that in public and thinking he's going to get away with it and that people are going to forget about it. We have not forgotten about that.
Yeah.
The world's richest man taking food away from the poorest children in the world is an unforgivable sin for all time.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That won't be forgotten. And, just all that like right side of history type stuff. Gosh, this is going to be quite a time for historians to be able to look back on. This time next week, we will be done with the 89th regular session, y'all, in the state of Texas. I got a couple bills. I just want to say, do we want good news or bad news first? What do you think?
Let's end with the good news.
So
End with good news.
Bad
Okay.
news first.
Bad news first. So, bad news is there is a really bad bill that was, highlighted by one of our great allies and friends. Shout out to Nicole Golden at Texas Gun Sense.
Hi, Nicole.
And Nicole.
Hey, Nicole, what's up? She has been making sure that everyone knows about SB 1362. Right now, it just passed out of the Senate, and then it passed out of the House. And there were, I believe, a few amendments on it. So it'll have just a couple more days, literally, to get that last bit of conference and done and sent over the governor's desk. But it is going to ban, or rather prohibit, any type of extreme risk protective orders. So that's those type of red flags. And they're not easy. It's not like your neighbor goes like, you can't have guns anymore. These
Right.
are judges' orders, typically documented by police orders. So this is going to be a big issue for our family violence centers around Texas. If they're, I'll just say in Alpine, one of our biggest, I'll say it's our biggest issue, where it's not immigration crimes. It's not necessarily DWIs or drug-related crimes or minor thefts. It is family violence. And when a police shows up, and they ask, basically, they're not able to make a actual arrest at that exact moment, but, perhaps typically the woman will go to an off-site location like a family violence center, taking the kids with them. And that man is staying at the home. And a lot of times there's a gun in the house. And the police will literally be banned from asking a judge if they can take the weapons from that person.
That's right.
This is really close to my heart because, again, This is one of the biggest issues in rural Texas, if not throughout our entire state. It's unbelievable. I don't know why Republicans voted strictly on party lines to be able to pass this. Like I said, it has a couple more hurdles, but it really looks like this is a Republican priority.
It's a Republican priority because these lawmakers don't want to be primaried from the right. And the reason that so many lawmakers voted for open carry is because that so many Texans couldn't get a concealed carry license because of their past behavior and action.
Mm-hmm.
The leading cause of death for Texas children is firearms.
That's right.
Is gun violence.
Uvalde's anniversary was last weekend.
That's right. That's right.
We need Texans of good conscience, of all political stripes and ages and backgrounds to vote on this issue. And I think a lot of folks have become one issue voters when it comes to gun violence prevention and gun safety. And the idea that something like this would never happen to your family, I mean, hopefully is breaking through when there's gun violence at the grocery store or the Walmart or the movie theater or the sports game. Everywhere. So I hope that folks remember this when they vote in the primaries next year. And it'll be our job at Progress Texas to remind them.
Yeah, it's we've talked, about the rationale for any individual yes or no vote at the Capitol. Sometimes it's about, preventing a future problem, like Kathleen mentions there, preventing a primary challenge or, out of context criticism or whatever. The Republicans are known for casting various bills, like we've talked about with Dan Patrick and THC, that it's about protecting kids. There are other bills that are clearly targeting trans people that are cast as protecting women. In this case, who exactly are they protecting? They are protecting a guy who's threatened to harm his girlfriend, or they're threatening someone who has a beef with a neighbor, and they vocalize that they're going to do something about it with their gun. I'm curious, honestly, to hear, outside of just basic zero motion on the Second Amendment, which is probably the most easy knee-jerk thing for any of these guys to say, who
right.
precisely are they purporting to protect by preventing future generations and local, law enforcement agencies from being able to do something about someone who's, being boisterous with firearms?
And imagine all the people that are going to be put in danger, not just obviously the victims of these gun violence, but like first responders and police officers and social workers who are going to be put in these positions that they can't do anything. They are not empowered anymore to actually protect and serve. And so, like you said, Chris, it's never been about actually protecting and serving anybody, any Texans. It's about lining their pockets and playing a political game that none of us are a part of.
And that'll lead me to the good news, where we believe that there will not be guns in your polling locations in the future. And I say that with a lot of caveats. The election judge bill allowing election judges to carry guns is still up in the air. And also, House and Senate have crazy rules, and they can what we call zombie bills or add amendments. And they can definitely try to make some bad things happen by breaking their own rules, which they do often. But I'll say HB 1794, which would allow anyone to bring a concealed handgun, or rather, those with a license, although how are you going to know, into an election polling location. That bill was referred to State Affairs Committee in the Senate on the 19th of May, and it is officially dead.
Woo.
Nice. That's good to hear.
Very nice. Another bill that was killed was the User Elusive Bill, SB
396. SB 396.
Thank you.
And SB 16.
Nice.
Both of those on that recent talk that we had about voting rights.
Yep, and that's the Texas's version of the SAVE Act. So those both died as well just this week.
Yeah, I would want to say that polling places are not a place for firearms. I mean, I've seen heated conversations and some elbows at poll greeting by people who won't act like grown-ups, and we've seen unintentional firearm discharges at schools, because schools are allowed, some staff are allowed to have their gun in the school, and that was supposed to be a public safety mechanism, but educators accidentally leaving their firearm in a bathroom. I mean, it's ridiculous. We don't need firearms in our schools. We don't need firearms in our polling places. And that is more about intimidation to me than about free and fair elections. So that's great news, Reagan.
Yeah, it really is good news. And just a little bit of maybe a little boring stuff here, but I think our listeners will really like to know how the governor what laws are around the governor's ability to sign or veto. So once Monday comes, once the strike of midnight happens on June 2nd, that is the end of the 89th regular session. Once that sign die has happened, that's the end. If a bill is presented to the governor less than 10 days, not counting Sundays prior to the final adjournment, the governor has 20 days, counting Sundays, after the final day of the session to sign or veto the bill. If neither action is taken, the bill becomes law without the governor's signature. You can all go scroll back 15 seconds and re-listen to that over and over. And you can also Google it. That comes straight from the Legislative Reference Library.
Thanks, Professor Stone.
Wait a minute. I have just a little bit of a bone to pick with that right there. That whole including Sundays thing. I thought that Sunday was the Sabbath day on which we never, ever would work, because that's one of the 10 commandments that we're going to post in all of our classrooms. Is that still going, or did that die?
That's still going.
Oh, it's still going. Just ponder for a second that the legislature has been working on Sundays for the last couple of weeks. And how hypocritical is it to say how Christian someone is or this or that and impose their religion on others and then disobey one of God's orders?
Yeah, that's been sent to the governor. So I'm wondering when my kiddo is going to come home and say, what does this mean? What does that mean?
What's adultery, Mom?
There's some grown-up stuff in there that my young child probably shouldn't be seeing in her school classroom next to the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. It's really ridiculous.
And I can't remember it exactly, but we're talking Old Testament here. I'm pretty sure somebody needs to be stoned to death. Yeah. I mean, that's working on a Sunday, working on the Sabbath.
I have a couple ideas.
This is not a threat, but comes straight from the Bible.
Yeah. Reagan will not be stoning anyone to death, at least.
No, my name is just Reagan.
Despite his name.
At least not on PT time. All right. Well, I think we're going to leave it for the moment for this week for In Progress. Again, the next time we do this will be after. Okay, I have to ask this question. Is it Sine die or is it Sine die? Because
I don't know.
I say Sine die, but I always feel funny saying that.
I say Sine die.
So
I also say Sine die.
I say Sine dies, so y'all win.
Right? No, Reagan, I want you to keep saying Sine die until we get clarification from someone who actually speaks Latin.
Put it in the comments.
So yeah,
make sure you abbreviate exactly how you say it.
We're gonna be really flexible on this because we're so glad it's here. We're so glad it's almost over. Next time we do this again, we'll be past that point. There will be more, plenty to unpack. And in fact, at Progress Texas, we're kind of moving into, what sort of damage was actually done during the session. There's plenty to talk about there for weeks and weeks. And then we're also kind of moving into election season. There are going to be amendments that are going to come out of the session. We'll be looking at all of that. That's the stuff you'll be voting on in just a few months, coming up in November of 2025. And then, of course, the elections in November 2026, which are, all important for sure.
And please go a few clicks back and make sure you heard Vicki Goodwin's announcement for Lieutenant Governor. We're so pleased that she chose to come on Progress Texas with her launch, and make sure that you're sharing the good news. And you can find it on our podcast network. You can find it on our website and lots of socials.
And last thing here, too, from Reagan here. If you got nothing to do Monday night, June 2nd, you can, of course, watch the Texas House and the Texas Senate live. You just Google it and you can find the links easily. I want to put out a bet. Are people going to be, or rather House sergeants, going to be holding the clocks at 11:59 and allow bills to continue to pass into the next day? And will then those judges or court orders say that those are not allowed because they are literally holding a clock? I'll say when I was working as a house sergeant nearly 18 years ago or so, I was not the person to hold the clock, but I very much saw that happen on a regular basis.
Wow. So much drama all coming up in the next couple of days. Hey, thanks for listening. Have yourself a terrific weekend. Kathleen, Reagan, Haley, thank you guys. And take care out there. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Have a good weekend.